What if I told you humans lived for thousands of years without using money at all? Before coins, banks, or digital payments existed, people still lived, worked, and survived every day. But life worked in a very different way. Instead of money, humans used trade, trust, and cooperation. In this video, we'll explore how early societies may have functioned before money existed, and what life could look like. Why you should keep watching. By the end of this video, you'll understand how people exchanged goods and services without money, how communities supported each other, and why trade systems slowly developed over time. You'll also see how early survival depended more on relationships than currency, and what lessons we can still learn from that today. Life before money, a different system. Let's start with a simple idea. Money did not always exist. In early human history, people still had needs. They needed food, water, shelter, and tools to survive. Life was very basic, and every resource mattered. But instead of using coins, notes, or any formal currency, people relied on direct exchange to get what they needed. This system is often called barter. Barter means trading one thing for another. There was no paper money, no bank accounts, and no fixed pricing system. Everything depended on what each person had and what the other person needed at that moment. For example, someone who had caught extra fish might trade it with another person who had fruits or vegetables. A hunter might exchange animal skins for tools made by someone skilled in crafting. In another situation, a farmer might offer grain in exchange for help building a shelter. Every exchange was different, and nothing was standardized. Because there was no fixed price, everything depended on mutual agreement. Both people had to feel that the exchange was fair. This often required communication, trust, and understanding between individuals or groups. However, barter also meant that trade was not always simple. Sometimes a person had what someone else needed, but that second person did not have anything in return that was useful at that moment. In such cases, trade could be delayed or even fail completely. Even with these challenges, barter allowed early societies to survive and function. It helped people share resources, build cooperation, and maintain basic economic activity long before the idea of money was ever created. Over time, as communities grew larger and trade became more complex, humans started looking for easier systems. But barter remained one of the earliest and most important steps in the development of human economy. How barter actually worked. At first, barter may sound simple, but in real life, it had challenges. Imagine you have extra wheat. You want shoes. But the shoemaker does not need wheat. He wants meat instead. So you must first find someone who wants wheat and has meat, then trade indirectly. This made trade slower and sometimes complicated. But it still worked because communities were small and people knew each other well. Trust played a very important role. The importance of trust and relationships. Before money existed, trust was more valuable than currency. People often traded with neighbors, family members, or nearby tribes. If someone broke trust, they might lose future trade opportunities. In small communities, reputation mattered a lot. If you were known as fair and honest, people were more willing to trade with you. So in a way, your social behavior acted like your economic value. Think about this for a second. Would you trust your neighbor more than a stranger in trade if money didn't exist? Sharing instead of selling. In many early societies, not everything was about trade. Sometimes people simply shared resources. For example, if a hunter caught extra food, it might be shared with the group. If a family built something useful, others could also use it. This created a strong sense of community survival. The idea was simple. If everyone helps each other, everyone survives. Barter and early specialization. Over time, people started developing skills. Some became farmers, others became hunters, builders, or tool makers. This created early specialization. Instead of everyone doing everything, people focused on what they did best. Then they traded their skills and goods with others. This made life more efficient and improved quality of goods. But it still depended on matching needs, which was not always easy. Problems with a no-money system. Even though barter worked, it had clear limitations. One major problem was double coincidence of wants. That means both people had to want what the other had at the same time. Another issue was storing value. Food can spoil, animals can grow old, goods don't always last. This made saving wealth difficult. Because of these challenges, societies slowly began looking for better systems. Imagine trying to buy a phone today by trading random items instead of money. How long do you think that would take? The first forms of money. Before coins existed, people started using items that were easier to trade. These items were valuable, durable, and widely accepted. For example, shells, salt, beads, livestock, grains. These acted as early forms of money. They were not perfect, but they made trade easier. People didn't need to directly exchange goods anymore. They could use a common item as a middle step. Why money eventually replaced barter? As societies grew bigger, barter became harder to manage. People needed a system that worked across long distances and larger populations. Money solved several problems at once. It made trade faster. It stored value better. It worked even if people didn't know each other. It simplified pricing. This is how early currency systems slowly developed. Coins eventually appeared, followed by paper money, and much later, digital money. Life lessons from a moneyless world. Even though we live in a money-based world today, there are still lessons from before money existed. One important lesson is cooperation. Early humans survived because they worked together. Another lesson is value is not only financial. Skills, trust, and relationships were just as important. Even today, these ideas still matter in business and life. If you had to live in a barter system today, what skill or item would you trade first? Then, versus now thinking. Life before money was simple in some ways, but also challenging. Today, money makes things easier, faster, and more flexible. But the foundation of exchange still remains the same. People give value and receive value in return. Only the system has changed, not the basic idea. Why this topic still matters today. Understanding how life worked before money helps us see something important. Money is not the only form of value. Time, skills, trust, and relationships still matter deeply. In many ways, modern success still depends on these old principles. Final thoughts. So life before money was not chaotic or meaningless. It was built on cooperation, trust, and direct exchange. It worked for thousands of years, but as societies grew, humans created better systems to make life easier. And that evolution eventually led to the world we live in today. If you enjoyed this simple breakdown of how life worked before money, you might like more videos that explore history and human behavior in an easy way. Feel free to like the video if it helped you understand something new. And if you enjoy calm, clear explanations like this, consider subscribing for more content. You can also watch the next video on your screen. It might connect perfectly with what you just learned. See you in the next video.